Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jive Picks, the other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC Vegas 70. How are we doing tonight?
Good, man. I can't believe we're all the way to UFC Vegas 70. That's crazy to think. Like 70 events at the Apex. Like it doesn't seem possible. It seems like, they just started doing that like a year ago. But I guess you do one every Saturday. They rack up.
Yeah, last card in February, and then we get a bunch of good cards in March. This is the double leg, the apex for everything you need to know about the UFC and what's going on in the UFC. If you're new here, drop a subscription down below, leave a like, leave a comment. Who else is giving you a weekly breakdown show, a weekly recap show, offering you a premium membership for less than $1 a day, where you get every betting card, detailed breakdowns, important data, future bets, and a private chat where you can literally ask us anything you want, as well as many other members in there who give a lot of great insight. And if you want to join our free Facebook group, we had a winner in the contest giveaway, won the pot of $80. So it rolled over for 4 weeks, and he won it last week. He had Aaron Blanchfield by sub plus 500. Shout out to him. Thibault Ward, I believe his name is, if I can remember correctly. But shout out to him. Make sure you get in there and get your submissions in. It's free to join the Facebook group and free to drop your play in there. So, I mean, give yourself a chance at least. On all the medias at the double leg as well. Without any further ado, we'll get right into the card. We don't want to take too much of your time, but if you are in a rush, there are the timestamps in this video. You can skip through it if you're only interested in a certain fight. And then, of course, we will drop the individual fight videos out there for all you guys. So without any further ado, we'll get into the main event here. Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann. Nikita Krylov coming in at minus 152. Spann comes back at plus 152. As always, odds courtesy of BetOpenly. Over under set at 1.5 rounds, plus 110 for the over, minus 110 for the under. In the light heavyweight division, this could be a decent fight as far as, possible title fights in the future. Maybe win this one and win one more, and you maybe get a shot. Both guys have been around for a decent time in the UFC at the light heavyweight division. Both guys got a lot of fights under their record. Who you like in this one?
Dude, it's kind of tough because both guys have a ton of experience. Both guys have beaten some pretty good fighters. If you look at, if you break down the stats and the data of this fight, Ryan Spann's got the height advantage, the reach advantage. Obviously probably going to be a little bit more powerful as well. I mean, we saw him knock out Dominic Reyes with that jab and then just viciously follows it up and just puts the lights out. We saw him submit Jan Kudetalabe when he rushed in. So Ryan Spann's kind of this, up until recently, he was kind of this underrated guy, flying under the radar, took a couple losses here and there. But when he wins, man, he looks good and he does it in spectacular fashion. And then Krylov beat Alexander Gustafsson. His only losses, here's the thing with Krylov, his only losses are to guys he should probably be losing to: Magomed Ankalaev, Jan Blachowicz, Paul Craig, which is, a lot of people and a lot of good fighters have gotten beat by Paul Craig, Glover Teixeira, and then he's beaten Oben St. Preux, Johnny Walker, Gustafsson, Volkan Ozdemir in his last fight. So both of these guys are, like I said, experienced veterans. They can get finishes. But right now, it's from what Ryan Spann's done in the last couple of fights, it's hard to ignore him at plus 150 or over. I mean, if the line tightens a little bit, I could see where you'd maybe hammer Krylov because he is just so solid everywhere. But right now, man, as that big of an underdog with a guy with that kind of finishing ability, power, submissions, I kind of like Ryan Spann, especially looking at Nikita Krylov's record. I mean, he's got 6 submission losses on his record. He's got a knockout loss and then lost twice in decision. So, yeah, man, right now I got to lean with Ryan Spann. It might come back to bite me, but it's not a bet or anything right now. But if I'm going to predict this fight, I'm going to lean on Ryan Spann to get another spectacular finish, maybe by submission.
Yeah, I can't knock you for taking that because at the plus money, he's cashed twice in a row as a dog. Dominic Reyes, as you alluded to earlier, plus 180 there, knocked him out with a jab, and then won against Iwan Kutalaba with a guillotine choke in round 1. I mean, the guy is as explosive as they come in the first round. We haven't really seen him too much in the later rounds, other than that split decision with Sam Alvey, which is just crazy to me that Sam Alvey was able to survive with him in there. That was kind of before his durability kind of gave up on him. And the fact that he got a split decision with Ryan Spann is certainly something to behold there. But he's made some improvements over the years. And the thing about him is if he goes for it, like he fucking goes for it. Like if he clips you at all in that first round, he is going balls to the wall. Like he gets that red in his eyes and he goes for it. He's a wild striker, powerful striker. Thing about him though, he's got some really good subs as well. I mean, he's got 12 submission wins, 10 of those in the first round. So if you're Nikita Krylov, do you want to go to the ground with him? He went to the ground a lot in his last fight with Volkan Oezdemir. Really showed a big improvement in his wrestling game. I mean, he won the fight basically because he was able to get Volkan on the ground and weigh on him. And nobody really had that fight go into decision, and it ultimately did because that was the path that he felt he had to take to get the win there. In that first round, Volkan clipped him a couple times. He hit Volkan a couple times. So he's like, all right, I'm just going to take him down and secure the win that way. Gets the win against Gustafsson. Looked like he never respected him at all on the feet and just went right through him. On the feet, he throws a lot of volume. He's got a lot of awkward strikes, though, too. He kind of moves certain way where it's like just really awkward, unorthodox. I mean, he lands 4.45 significant strikes per minute. So he's very active on the feet and not afraid to get in there and throw with you in the pocket. But the thing about him, as we saw in the Paul Craig fight, he was winning the whole fight until he wasn't. That's a lot of the case with Paul Craig. He can get subbed. He's been subbed 6 times. He's been subbed 6 times in his career. And within the past 5 years, he's been subbed twice by Jan Blachowicz and Paul Craig. He did win the first round against Magomed Ankalaev in the Apex with a lot of his wrestling. So kind of out-wrestled one of the better wrestlers in the division in Ankalaev in the first round and then lost the next 2. Both guys have a big ceiling. It's just really who's gonna show up that night or who's on that night. If both guys are on, we're in for a treat. If one guy's on and one guy's off, it's gonna look really lopsided because both guys are super powerful. Both guys have a lot of finishing ability. So yeah, I mean, as far as a pick goes, I would probably lean the dog. Just for the fact, like from a betting standpoint, it almost seems like it's dog or pass. But Krylov, if he implements the game plan and stays safe of wrestling and, taking the path of least resistance or the least likeliness of him getting finished, goes the wrestling route, would be interesting. But then you're messing with that submission game of Spann. It doesn't seem like there's a safer play for any guy. So I think the under on this one, we look at the under again. It was over under that 1.5. I mean, you're pretty much almost at even money for the over under 1.5. That doesn't look too bad to take the under there. But it is a 5-round fight, so they could come out pacing themselves. This is Krylov's first main event. Ryan Spann has done this once before with Anthony Smith. So I would be interested to see how Krylov comes out. The fight with Smith for Spann, I mean, he came out swinging, so I would expect him to always come out that way. But yeah, I think it's kind of dog or pass in this situation. You're laying minus 160 on light heavyweights. There's a lot of like variance that could go into that. So yeah, I think it's probably dog or pass. You got anything else on that one?
Yeah, I definitely agree because Spann is so dangerous from every angle. I mean, the striking, the power, even the submissions, it's just if you leave your neck exposed for 1 second, he can find that angle. He's so powerful and so strong that I mean it's impossible not to go out, and he's done it before. Yeah, man, I just think all signs point to if you're gonna put money on this fight, it's got to be on the dog's side. I mean, minus 160, you're gonna have to play more money to win less, and there's a chance that any second he gets finished. So yeah, I think it's dog or pass. Probably not a big play at all if you are gonna bet on it, but I like Ryan Spann here.
Yeah, one last thing on that. He got subbed by Anthony Smith, but he was kind of wobbled in that one. So I mean he was hurt and then kind of got subbed once Smith got on him
Yeah,
and flattened him out. And then he got finished by Johnny Walker in the first round with those vicious elbows and hammer fists. And he had Johnny Walker knocked down twice in that fight, I believe. So I mean he had him on the ropes, and that was kind of before Johnny Walker started getting a couple losses. So yeah, I think it's harder to finish Spann. I don't know. We'll see, but kind of
good
a
fight.
greasy spot. Yeah, good
Yeah,
fight. Good main event. Good main
for
event.
sure.
I will say it's kind of a fight under the radar in the light heavyweight division. I think it's going to be exciting to watch. Move on to the co-main event. Andre Muniz taking on Brendan Allen. Allen comes in at plus 190. Muniz minus 190 as the favorite. Both guys like to take it to the ground. Over under 1.5 rounds. Over sitting at minus 124. Under plus 124. Muniz undefeated in the UFC. Brendan Allen 4-1 in his last 5. Who do you like in this one?
Oh man, it's another greasy one because, dude, stylistically, this is a great matchup. Like you said, both guys want to take it to the ground. Both guys have really sharp skills down there. I mean, we saw Muniz against Uriah Hall just wear him down, and he got to the back easily. Then Brendan Allen, I mean, he wins most of his fights by submission too. So whoever you're taking here, you're going to be banking on that submission game, in my opinion. You look at the records. Muniz has 15 submission wins. Brendan Allen has 11. And Brendan Allen has been finished by submission before, as Muniz has not. So, yeah, it all to me it all comes down who's got the better grappling and who's got the better jujitsu. And even if if those two things offset each other, who's going to have the better striking? It's kind of hard to tell because these guys are such like grappling specialists that it's hard to get a read on who's going to be better on the feet, in my opinion. You got Brendan Allen 5 knockout wins. So I mean, he holds a little bit of power, and if there's a downfall from Muniz at all, it is you look at his record. 4 of those losses has come by knockout. So I mean, he's capable of being knocked out. People have found the chin before, but at this level, I don't know. Both these guys are going to have similar game plans. It's almost impossible to tell. And for me, honestly, it comes down to I try to look at these guys' last few fights, and Muniz has looked like the sharper, more dominant fighter when it gets to the position he wants. So I think I got to rock with the favorite here. I wanted to get to Brendan Allen at this price all week, or last week coming into this week. I'm interested to see what the line's going to do as we move on towards Saturday, but right now I'm going to stick on the favorite side for my pick. Don't have any official bets out on this yet. Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to the underdog here, but for right now, yeah, we're going to stick with Muniz for the pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you again. I want to disagree with you on something, but I just can't on this series. I mean, both guys like lean on their jujitsu, and I wouldn't even say Muniz leans on it. I think that's just what he wants to do for the
Right.
entire fight. Brendan Allen, he offers a lot more on the feet, but he just doesn't have that like finishing ability on the feet. He wants to get you to the ground eventually. I mean, he has some pretty good kicks, but there's no doubt about it. He wants to get the fight to the ground, and he wants to submit you there. And for Muniz, he has like a super slow plotting stand up, and somehow, I mean, he manages to get takedowns. I mean, he has 3.71 takedowns per 15 minutes and 40% takedown accuracy, but he that's what he does. I mean, he's going to shoot and shoot and shoot, and he has a pretty good single leg. If he can get you up against the cage, grab that single leg and trip you into getting you on the ground, that's kind of been a way he gets you to the ground without being like an explosive double leg, muscle you up kind of guy.
Right.
So this fight has to hit the ground at some point, and I think Muniz has elite BJJ. Brendan Allen has great BJJ. Muniz has elite BJJ. Like, he can get you to the ground and work for that submission. Be in full guard, get to half guard, get to side control, get to mount, and get the arm bar. I mean, the guy's arm bars are disgusting. Snapping Jacare's arm, which was pretty nasty. I mean, he almost snapped Eric Anders' arm bar, or almost snapped Eric Anders' arm. Uriah Hall was pretty much mauled the entire fight. The guy's got great top pressure, and if he gets on top of Brendan Allen, I don't think it's going to be working out well for him, even with the jiu-jitsu that he has. So
right.
I'm gonna take Andre Muniz, and I would maybe by submission. I mean, I don't know what what they'll set the prop at, but by submission's obviously going to be the chalkier bet. Maybe by a decision would be in there if Brendan Allen can stay safe, but I just don't take him as a guy that would sit there and get controlled for 3 rounds. I think he's going to try everything in his power to scramble out of it and probably get himself in a worse position, and Muniz probably snatches it up. So whether it's the armbar, I mean, that transitions that Muniz has when he's in control with the jiu-jitsu is like beautiful to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
he take you from the back. I mean, the one against Eric Anders, he was on the back, sliding off, grabs the arm. Like, it was just some really nice stuff to watch. So yeah, I'm gonna take Muniz to keep it short. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
Just that, you look at their recent competition. Brendan Allen submitting Krzysztof Jotko, no longer in the UFC. Sam Alvey, no longer in the UFC. He went to decision with Punahele Soriano, who we saw gas within 2 minutes. So yeah, Brendan Allen, just for some reason, watching his fights, he can be explosive. He can burn some energy at times. If this fight goes past 1.5 rounds, I imagine Muniz being the more durable guy with the better cardio and gas tank, way more experience in that BJJ. So I think everything points to the favorite here, in my opinion. Like I said, wanted to get to Brendan Allen. We're not going to do it. Sticking with Andre Muniz for sure here.
Yeah. If you're Brendan Allen, like, do you really want to take him down? And you're not going to be able to just sit at kicking range in a small cage
Right.
at the apex? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a great path to victory for Brendan Allen.
Yep.
The heavyweight bout. Once again, we're getting a heavyweight bout in the 3 slot on the main card. Low level again. Augusto Sakai taking on Don'Tale Mayes. Slight dog money on Don'Tale Mayes, plus 115. Augusto Sakai coming off 4 KO losses. Sits at the favorite, minus 115. Over under 1.5 rounds. Overs minus 151. Under plus 151. I mean, for a guy that's coming off of 4 straight knockouts, I would expect him to be severely undervalued, and I would like to back him. But in this scenario, it is Augusto Sakai who has come off 4 straight knockouts, and that is, you have to have some big balls to back a guy coming off 4 straight knockouts. But the silver lining in this is the opponents are as powerful as they come. Like, we don't need to beat around it there. I mean, Sergey Spivak, not the most powerful. I will say that. But I mean, his path to victory there was picking him up, taking him down, Sakai getting back to his feet, and then getting down again. Just basically what he did to Derek Lewis, but for a longer period of time and a lot more shots. So he went through the ringer with Sergey Spivak, gets knocked out by Tai Tuivasa in the second round. That was pretty nasty. Jairzinho Rosenstrike knocks him out in the first round, at the end of the first round, and then loses in the 5th round to Alistair Overeem by a ground and pound. But before that, let's look at it, the UFC opponents before that. Blagoy Ivanov wins a split decision, knocks out Marcin Tybura, split decision win over Andrei Arlovsky, and a win, round 3 knockout over Chase Sherman. So he beats, the lower level heavyweights
Barely.
barely. Granted, it was, 2019, 2020. But I mean, he obviously can't hang with the upper level heavyweights. But Dontel Mays is no upper level heavyweight. Dontel Mays struggles with, the lowest of level of heavyweights. The guy's got a great frame. I mean, he's 6'6", 81-inch reach. It looks great on paper. But comes in as the favorite against Hamdi Abdelwahab and loses. They chalk it up as a no contest because Hamdi was on the sauce. He gets a win over Josh Parisian. We talked about him last week. It is what it is. The guy can get taken down by, my grandma. But Dontel Mays looked like a D1 wrestler in that one. He had like 6 takedowns. Gets a win over Roque Martinez. Yeah, who the hell knows who Roque Martinez is at this point? He went 0-3 in the UFC. He's not in the UFC anymore for a reason. Loses to Rodrigo Nascimento, loses to Cyril Gane in his debut. So, sure, he's beating, the bottom level of the UFC heavyweights, but that's really nothing to write home about. Sakai beat him too. So, I mean, are these guys like the same level? Somewhat. We talked about it in the recap. After, the 12 best heavyweights, it pretty much drops off. Sakai, he needs a win bad. He needs a win very bad. For Dontel Mays, probably needs a win, but, he could probably afford another loss. He's, 2-0 with a no contest in his last 3. Sakai just needs a win. He has decent stand-up. He struggles severely off of his back if he gets taken down in this fight. If Dontel Mays comes out and shows his wrestling like he did against Parisian, it might be a tough fight for Sakai. But the thing for Mays, he just doesn't have a lot of finishing ability, not a ton of power. He's long. He'll wrestle. But I don't really doubt I doubt his ability to like do that against anyone that's not Josh Parisian. Much more fleet of foot, in his striking, a lot more kicks. This is just as greasy as it gets. Like, yeah, I don't even know who I would take for my pick. Like, it's probably dog or pass. I mean, it's heavyweights, but I can't get to Dontel Mays. Even, if he was like a plus 200, I'd feel much better about it. But I don't know. I mean, it kind of seems like the value's on Sakai, being that he's coming off 4 straight losses. I mean, and he was a favorite in a good amount of those. Or he was close to a favorite. He's pretty close in the odds with Tai Tuivasa. He's pretty much even there. Pretty much even with Rosenstrike. He's a slight dog against Overeem. And then he was a much bigger dog against Spivak, but that's because Spivak is a big wrestler, and they knew he'd take him down. So what are your thoughts? I don't know. Maybe you can sway me some way.
I'm going to try because you already know I'm taking Dontel Mays as my pick. We talked a little earlier. But I'm looking at Augusto Sakai's record right now. And when he came into the UFC, Chase Sherman, Andrei Arlovsky, Marcin Tybura, and Blahoy Ivanov are his 4 wins in a row. 2 of those by split decision to Blahoy Ivanov and Andrei Arlovsky, which was, I guess, coming up on 4 years now, 4 years ago. So let's say those roles are reversed. He gets those 2 split decision losses. He would then be 2-6 in the UFC. And I just can't. A guy that's 2-6 in the UFC and has been knocked out in his last 4 fights, I just can't get to put my money on him at all. Just because it'll only takes one big shot to put him down. Like you said, Dontel Mays hasn't shown that he's this big, powerful striker by any means. But I mean, how affected is Augusto Sakai from those 4 losses and the damage he's taken? I mean, he's fighting some heavy hitters in Tai Tuivasa, Jairzinho, and Alistair Overeem. But I mean, you're not going out there convincingly beating Blahoy Ivanov. You're not convincingly beating an older Andrei Arlovsky. You're beating Marcin Tybura, who we saw against Blahoy in his last fight, and Marcin's just no finishing ability at all. Doesn't hit hard, weird striking that's not that effective. And then you're knocking out Chase Sherman, who has some of the most losses in UFC history. So I just can't get to Augusto Sakai. I think as an underdog here, Dontel Mays, if you are going to play him, you just got to hope that he comes in there, uses that size and reach to not get himself in too much danger. Because Augusto Sakai, I mean, he does hold power, he can hit you, but if you can close the distance and just clinch up with him and do some work in close and possibly drag him down to the ground, I mean, I just don't think he has much to offer. I think Dontel Mays, his kind of downfall is going to be against guys with good jiu-jitsu at that level. And, they're going to control him and find a finish that way. But Augusto Sakai offers none of that. So I've got to lean the dog here. And I think as the week goes on, I think Augusto Sakai will flip and he'll actually be the underdog. So if you are waiting and you are going to bet on Sakai, I think you could hold off until closer to the fight. I think people are going to start looking into this more. They're going to start seeing that record. And I think people are going to have more confidence in Dontel Mays just because of recency bias, because he is coming off of 2 wins in a row, regardless of the Hamdi fight. And Hamdi's a big, strong dude who, I'm pretty sure was he like an Olympic wrestler or?
Yeah, it was, where is he from or something?
He's from like Iran or something, isn't he?
Egypt.
Egypt.
From Egypt, yeah. So, I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
And just short and huge, no neck at all, just all bulk. And he was able to beat him. But yeah, man, this is a dicey one for sure. It always is at this level in the heavyweights. I mean, we've been talking for the last couple of weeks. The heavyweight division is so shallow right now, and this is not going to be too high a level of a fight. But I'm going to lean the underdog for sure. I think Dontel Mays just has more to offer right now at this point in their careers. Like I said, that big 4-fight losing streak, all by knockout, just sticks out to me like a sore thumb. So I'm gonna have to go with my instinct and just take Dontel Mays here.
I will say, Augusto Sakai looks like he's in much better shape on Instagram. But if we
said that about William Knight too.
If we judge people on Instagrams, it's probably not a good. You might go out there and not even throw a punch.
Yeah.
So, there's that. We'll get into the women's MMA here. Tatiana Suarez making her comeback here against Martina de la Rosa. Undefeated for Tatiana Suarez. Minus 650 for her, plus 650 for de la Rosa. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, minus 160 for the over, plus 160 for the under. Are you giving any chance to the underdog in this one, or are you back on the Tatiana Suarez hype train?
It's tough because Tatiana, with the layoff, I mean, we don't know what she's going to look like coming out here. I imagine she just looks like the same old Tatiana Suarez. But Tatiana's going to want to get this thing to the ground, use that wrestling, get on top. And the flip side, what makes Martina de la Rosa dangerous, I guess, is her arm bars and her triangles she throws up from her back. She's going to be looking for submissions off her back. So, I mean, I'm not going to bet it, because Suarez should go out there, take care of business. She's good enough in that aspect of the game that she'll be able to know. I mean, she'll know what to do. She's competent on the ground. She's a grinder. She's a good fighter. It's just the little layoff that scares me a little bit. And then Martina de la Rosa offer back that could give her a shot to find something crazy, and cash is a big underdog. I mean, it is women's MMA. Anything happens. I don't think there should ever be a minus 700, minus 800 favorite in women's MMA. That's just me, I guess. Suarez unbeaten. De La Rosa obviously has a handful of losses on a record, but I think Suarez does get it done. I'm going to guess a decision victory over De La Rosa. I think it's going to be a lot of Suarez taking her to the ground and just kind of doing some damage on top, fighting that grinded out style and getting another win, go 10-0. But I could see a world where De La Rosa snatches something up out of the blue, shocks everybody. I don't think it's likely, but I won't be shocked if we see something like that happen in this fight.
Yeah, Suarez coming in as a big favorite.
Big.
It's a little sketchy. I mean, she hasn't fought since 2019, but so almost 4 years she's been off. She's had that couple injuries, the knee injury, the neck injury. So her being this big of a favorite just speaks to the dominance that she was showing like before that layoff. I mean, she dominated Nina Muniz before, Nina Muniz kind of fell off. Dominated Carla Esparza at strawweight. This one's going to be at flyweight, if I didn't say that. Dominated Alexa Grasso at strawweight. Rear naked choked her. I mean, the ground game of Suarez is something special, and her takedowns are something special, like something you don't really see from women's fighters or women's MMA fighters. Relentless grappler. I mean, if she gets on top of you, like you're in a world for her. And for De La Rosa, her last fight against Macy Barber, she kind of got muscled up, and that's not really a good look going into this one. Her bread does get buttered in the grappling as well. She's got 8 submission wins, and 1 submission loss. Not too great on the feet, but she offers a little bit there. Super average in the stand up. She's not super strong. Like that. That's kind of the big takeaway I took from the Macy Barber fight. Like Macy Barber's a strong girl. And she kind of just muscled her around for majority of the fight and got that unanimous decision win. And then we look at the Ariane Lipski fight. Lipski is a striker. De La Rosa kind of had her way with her on the ground and looked really good in that fight. So it looks like if she faces another wrestler, grappler, stronger girl, that she's probably gonna have problems. She's not top tier, but if she faces a striker, she's gonna have a lot more of a chance. So in this one, the odds seem to be pretty wide for considering the circumstances. Coming back, I would expect. I mean, you have to expect Suarez to be a little bit rusty. Like you can't really, if she goes out there and just subs her in the first round, like goddamn, like we gotta start assessing where she's gonna be in the flyweight division if that's where she stays. But yeah, I mean Suarez by decision or something like that. Suarez by sub could happen. De La Rosa got subbed by Mackenzie Dern in 2016, Legacy FC. So nothing to hang your head about there if you're getting subbed by Mackenzie Dern. Suarez, capable to do it, but I mean, at this price on the money line, it's like, don't even throw it in a parlay or anything.
Yeah.
You're not getting any value. I would just, play a prop if you like the decision, or if you like the sub, or if you like the dog, sprinkle a little bit on the dog, maybe in the dog by decision or by sub or something like that. But money line for the favorite, it's just off the table at this point. It's just so much variance in women's MMA. It's like you don't know what's going to happen. So not enough to take a bite there for me.
I agree.
Mike Malott taking on the fellow Canadian Johan Lainesse. Plus 200 for the Lioness, minus 200 for proper Mike Malott. Over under set at 1.5 rounds, minus 110 for the over, plus 110 for the under. Welterweight fight here, 4-1-1 for Mike Malott, 4-1 for Johan Lainesse. Mike Malott coming off the knockout victory over Mickey Gall, which was a thing of beauty, and it was his debut. So, I mean, he kind of made a little bang there. That was back in April of last year, so nearly a year off for him. I mean, he hasn't really been super active throughout his career. I mean, he made his pro debut in 2011, and it is now 2023. So 12 years, he's got 10 fights. Training out of Team Alpha Male, so a good camp there. But overall, after watching him in his debut, I think a lot of people are going to be on him this week. I think he probably wins, but with the way he fights, he can get touched on the feet, and he can get rocked. I mean, he's been rocked a couple times in his fight, like straight up hit in the face and on his butt, not rocked like he got hit and he was okay. Like he's been on the ropes a couple times. He could have had a few more losses on his record. He's got super clean hands, though. That's the thing. Like he's got great placement. He's really efficient on the feet, but he just leaves himself open to getting hit. He's got great grappling as well. I think that's probably his best path to victory in this one. If he can get Lainesse to get Lainesse on the ground, that would be probably his easiest, or the path of least resistance to get the win there. Lainesse, not a great ground game, but a lot of power on the feet, and that's concerns me. If you're going to lay, minus 200 on Mike Malott, his cardio is a bit of a question though. Gassed out against Gabe Green and got knocked out or TKO'd. Fairly low volume on the feet though too. I mean, he's more of a one hitter quitter type of guy rather than an accumulation of damage. He's got a negative strike differential, which is concerning if you're going to back him. I never like to back a guy that has a negative strike differential, but for him, it just takes one, and that's kind of the story here. So I don't know that I could get behind him a lot at minus 200. Maybe as the week goes on, if I like it as the week goes on, I might throw it in a parlay or something. But maybe a submission prop, Mike Malott by submission, is something I'd probably look at for sure. What are you thinking?
I'd be looking at the submission prop too, because on the feet, like if you stand with Johan long enough, he's going to find the chin sooner or later. And he is so powerful that, he's super dangerous. So all it takes is one from him. I hate that negative differential with the striking for Johan, because if he just had more output and had more volume, I think he could knock a lot of people out. I think the gas tank is. I kind of go back and forth with this. Like in his first UFC debut fight, he did gas against Gabe Green, but there's so much nerves and so much tension in your debut that maybe that got to him a little bit and zapped him of his energy before he even got into the octagon. So you just never know with the debuters. And he came back and got the split decision win. But one thing I did notice, and this is a little unorthodox, Mike doesn't have the biggest, strongest legs I've seen. He looked like he had small legs to me.
Yeah.
And if Johan comes out there and just starts kicking the hell out of him, that's going to impact and affect this fight drastically, in my opinion. So I don't think I could get behind either guy, really. I don't think I can get behind Mike at minus 200 right now. Johan at plus 200, I think he's got a lot of holes in his game too, one being the grappling and then the cardio as well. But I do like a couple props. I think if Mike finishes this fight, it's by submission. And Johan has a chance to get the TKO, in my opinion, just because of that crazy power. I don't think Mike Malott's fought anybody with that kind of power at this level yet. I think there's a lot of unknowns on both sides. And I think these are two guys that could bring it out of each of them. We could see how the grappling's gotten and how the takedown defense and ground game has improved for Johan, if it's improved at all. And then we'll see if Mike Malott can take some big shots, because Johan can definitely give them. I think Johan's just got to find that happy medium between putting on a decent pace without gassing yourself out. Maybe he needs to take a little bit off his punches and throw more volume, and then every couple throw that big power shot and see if you can land it. But I think both guys have a lot to offer. Both guys have slight holes in their game, and if the other one exposes them, that's who the winner is going to be. So I do like the KO prop for Johan, and I like the submission prop for Mike. As the week goes on, we'll see if the line changes any, if that tells us where some sharp money's coming in on. But yeah, that's right now. I'm gonna lean Mike Malott for the pick, just because I think there's ways around those leg kicks if he can just from the get-go get in close and try to get this thing to the ground.
Yeah, I think as an overall, Mike Malott is like not very durable. He just doesn't look very durable.
Right.
It's, kind of skinny legs. Mickey Gall had him bleeding pretty bad out of the nose, and Mickey Gall is nothing to write home about, on the feet or anything like that. He has been knocked out by Akeem Dawodu in the World Series of Fighting 2014. So he's pretty hittable. You look at the stats too. In his fight with Mickey Gall and the Contender Series, those two fights, he absorbs 4.19 significant strikes per minute. So don't want to take too many of those from Johan.
Right.
Keep moving to Trevor Peek taking on Eric Gonzalez, plus 175 for Gonzalez, minus 175 for Peek. Over under set at 1.5 rounds, plus 160 for the over, minus 160 for the under. Undefeated Trevor Peek making his debut in the UFC. Eric Gonzalez 0-2 in the UFC. Who you like in this one?
This one's tough too. A little. I mean, all these fights are tough this week. I think stylistically, we have a ton of good matchups. Trevor Peek on the Contender Series. The one thing that I liked seeing out of him was that he had the ability to bounce back after being hurt, after being cracked, and the dude holds some serious power as well. Looked pretty sharp in that fight when he was the one dishing out the shots. Um, the durability factor, I think, is going to be big in this fight. I think he will be the more durable fighter. If Eric Gonzalez can't put him out in that first round, I think Trevor Peek has the advantage going forward, and that's just based off of watching Trevor Peek on the Contender Series, and as the fight went on, he got stronger even after being hurt and cracked. So, yeah, Eric Gonzalez 0-2 in the UFC. It is kind of do or die time for him. Lost to Terrence McKinney, and I know people hate on Terrence McKinney because of his last performance, but he's got that style where he's going to rush forward and try to take you out quick. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He was able to against Gonzalez, got the submission halfway through the first round, and then he loses to Jim Miller by KO. But I mean, we saw Jim Miller is one of the most durable dudes in the UFC for his age. I mean, he was on a 3-fight win streak. So that's kind of a tough first fight in the UFC, in my opinion. But I don't think you're getting, much better with Trevor Peek. I think Trevor Peek is more of a prospect here. I do think he's going to be the better fighter. And yeah, for the pick, man, I'm just going to lean on that durability and power. You mix those things together, you're going to find success at this level. So yeah, I'm gonna ride with Trevor Peek.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you again. Trevor Peek, that fight he had on the Contender Series was super exciting. I mean, he took 46 or 65 significant strikes, or no, 60 significant strikes in the first round, and survived, got to round 2, and finished it in round 2. So he took a beating in the first round, and this guy, you could tell he leans on his durability and leans on his heart. Guy, he's never gonna quit, and he throws hard, throws explosive shots. I mean, he goes for it too. He's not in there to point fight. He's coming in there to knock you out. He's got 7 knockouts. I mean, 7-0, 7 knockouts. So the story there. For Eric Gonzalez, really just hasn't shown much. I mean, his opponents in the UFC have been kind of tough. Obviously, I mean, you said got subbed by McKinney. He was a big underdog in that one. Got knocked out by Jim Miller. He was, plus 225 underdog in that one. But Jim Miller knocked him out cold. I mean, he completely folded him.
Yeah.
He's super hittable on the feet, and that's not going to do you well going up against a guy with 7 knockouts. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all Trevor Peek in this one for me. The only thing that scares me is, both guys get hit a lot.
Yep.
It's the stats are kind of skewed because Peek only has, 1 fight under his record as far as the UFC stats go. 8.53 strikes absorbed per minute for Peek, 6.65 strikes absorbed for Eric Gonzalez per minute. But he did crack McKinney in that first round. If you go back and watch that, he cracked him with a left, but McKinney was able to. I mean, he didn't drop him, but he cracked him a little bit, and then McKinney was able to get the back and get the rear neck choke. But I would trust Peek's durability more. It's just that little scary taking a Contender Series guy making his debut who leans on his durability. It's like something a little greasy there. But yeah, I would take Peek. You'd probably be better off taking a knockout prop. I mean, Gonzalez has only been knocked out once,
Right.
but it was Jim Miller who, I mean, has looked a lot more powerful as of late, but not necessarily known for big knockout power. So if you find the right spot on Eric Gonzalez, it'll put him out, and I would expect Peek to do that. So I'll take.
Be interested to see what the under is in this one. Both guys are going to come out firing.
1.5.
Oh, yeah.
Minus 160 for the under. So yeah,
I was hoping for a minus 120, minus 130, minus 160. So dicey for over unders.
Yeah,
You got to lay a lot of money to win a unit, and I mean, we've seen it time and time again, or at least I have. You're on the wrong side of that thing by about 2 to 3 minutes every single time. or two big finishers go to decision for the first time in their career. Every time.
Yeah, especially after watching Trevor Peak take a beating in the first round and then
Yeah.
come back and win. And it was 2 minutes and 37 seconds into the
Yep.
second round. So that's you'd lose your under there. Like he just took a
Yeah.
beating for a round and then battled back and got it. So
Right.
yeah, it's a tough one to lay that kind of chalk on any fight, really.
Another exciting fight, though. I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be, I mean, we got a ton of exciting fights at least.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one, seeing how it looks. Gabriela Fernandes making her debut, sitting at -120 against the Canadian Jasmine Jasudavicius. +120 for her. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, -260 for the over, +260 for the under. If you like the under in this one, you're getting pretty good odds there. Flyweight bout here. Fernandez making her debut, 8-1, 5-0 in her last 5. Jasudavicius coming off the loss to Silva at UFC Austin last year. Who you liking this?
Yeah, right now, you look at Jasmine coming off of that loss in the UFC, just based on her level of opponents. And Kay Hansen she beat, but Kay Hansen was kind of a letdown in my opinion.
Yeah.
Girls making their UFC debut though. You look at Gabriela Fernandez, and she was in LFA fighting girls that you've probably never heard of. She has the ability to get finishes that we've seen her find the rear naked chokes, guillotines. She's got a strong squeeze. We've even seen some TKOs as well. I don't normally take UFC newcomers, but if I'm looking at both of these girls side by side, their records, their finishing ability at this level, I'm always going to take the finisher, especially in women's MMA, because you don't get a lot of girls that come out here with great finishing ability. I think Jasmine has the ability to be a good fighter. I mean, she's strong. You look at her; she's kind of intimidating. But I think Gabriela Fernandez, like I was saying, I just got to go with the finishing ability, especially in this one. I'm interested to see if you have anything else on it because at this level, man, it's just hard to get a grasp, especially betting on either side in this low level of women's MMA. For the pick, Gabriela Fernandez. Am I going to lay money on either side? Probably not. Just can't get there with either one, especially since you haven't seen them fight any like great fighters or anything. Yeah, give me Gabriela for the pick.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Jasmine, her debut against Kay Hansen, I backed her as an underdog, and she came through for me. And pretty much for Kay Hansen, it's like she wants it on the ground and she wants to use her jujitsu, and that's pretty much the story for her. And
Yep.
Jasmine knew that. She was a lot bigger than her too. I mean, she loves to use her size when she fights, lean on girls. I guess you'd say girls. I want to say guys, but lean on girls, control them up against the cage. She can get hit on the feet though. I mean, you watch the fight with Natalia Silva. Natalia Silva pieced her up, and Jasmine was a -240 favorite in that one. I remember looking at that line. I'm like, this just doesn't seem right. Like there was a good amount of hype on Jasmine because she's got a pretty good frame for the division, and Canadian. There's a little like some kind of hype coming into the UFC. She had a loss to Elise Reed though, a split decision loss in Cage Fury at strawweight. So we all know Elise Reed. She's got some pretty decent stand up, but not like a super long. And Jasmine moving up to 125, still a good frame for 125. And you look at Gabrielle Fernandez, she's a built 125. Like she's got to be cutting a good amount of weight. Like she's 5'6", only an inch shorter than Jasmine, and she has some muscle on her. I mean, the guillotine choke she had against Carolyn Martinez in her last fight out, she was squeezing, and you could see the packs popping. I'm like, geez, like is this girl
She's
on
strong.
the juice or something? Like, damn. But her only loss in her professional career is to Maria Silva, and if you know Maria Silva, she fought in the Contender Series last year against Victoria Dudakova. She was a -270 favorite in that one, and lost that one by decision. That was when Dudakova like blew out her knee and still managed to win. So I mean, her only loss is to a pretty good opponent, and a woman that was probably should be in the UFC at this point, but isn't. She has a win. Her first professional career win was against Yasmin Lucindo, who's in the UFC now. So, I mean, she's fighting pretty solid girls on the regional scene and then gets into LFA. And LFA is, pretty much the stepping stone to the UFC, and she's undefeated there. So I can see why she's the favorite in this one. And after watching them both fight, I think Fernandes probably pieces her up on the feet. She throws a lot of kicks, and she's going to be able to keep that range against Jasmine, who, as I said, wants to wear on you. Southpaw, that's another wrinkle to throw in there for Jasmine. And yeah, I like Fernandes this week, but again, it's lower level women's MMA, so it's tough to get a real good grasp. But I can see why she's the favorite, and I would feel pretty confident that she wins this fight if she can stay at range. And I think if it gets into the clinch, I think she's going to be the stronger girl, like just straight up. And she had a lot of grappling exchanges in her fight in the LFA. She looked pretty decent. So yeah, as weird as it is to say, I feel pretty good in Fernandes, a debuting women's MMA fighter. But yeah, don't get too confident in that.
No.
Let's slow the roll a little bit, but yeah, I like her. Victor Martinez taking on Jordan Leavitt. 10-2 for Jordan Leavitt, 13-4 for Victor Martinez, making his debut, coming in as the slight favorite, -110. Jordan Leavitt coming off the loss to Paddy Pimblett, +110 for him. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, +140 for the over, -140 for the under. I'm not really sure why Jordan Leavitt is the underdog in this one.
I agree.
I'm completely honest. Like, the guy, I understand, like, he's not a sexy pick at all. Like, you watch him fight and it's wrestling. It's like, it's not even like fun wrestling where they, pick him up and slam him. Like, he does have that slam knockout or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, he just wants to grind on you, smother you, and use his like grip strength and everything to get a win. And it's just super weird. And it's just not a sexy pick. Maybe that's why he's the underdog here, but I watched Victor Martinez and I'm just not impressed at all. I mean, he's like pretty decent on the feet, super hittable on the feet, but he gets into close fights. And I think Jordan Leavitt, there's like tons of value on Jordan Leavitt as the underdog here. Making his debut. I mean, love fading dudes making their debut, especially coming off the Contender Series. This guy, Victor Martinez, has a loss to Eric Gonzalez. We just talked about Eric Gonzalez.
Yep.
Eric Gonzalez is damn near on his way out of the UFC. So, yeah, I like Jordan Leavitt this week. I think he should be favored. What about you?
I like him too. It did shock me to see that he was going to be the underdog against Victor, and I don't know if it's because the Paddy loss doesn't age terribly well. Just because Paddy, obviously a lot of people think he lost to Jared Gordon, and then he went out there and submitted Jordan Leavitt. But Jordan Leavitt made that a tough fight for Paddy for that first round. Grinded him up against the fence, took him down, let him back up, took him down. So if you look at Victor's losses, he's got 4, and 2 of those come by submission. Jordan Leavitt does his best work when he can get you to the ground and try to submit you. So I just like that. I like him by submission. I like him as the underdog. I think on the feet, he's never been knocked out. I know that Victor's got some power. He's got 8 KO wins out of his 13 wins. But I mean, Jordan Leavitt is a little unorthodox on the feet. You're always constantly going to be worried about the takedown, so you're not going to be able to let your hands fly as normal or as you would against another striker. I love seeing him at plus money this week. I love seeing that. It's going to be a bounce back fight. You don't have to worry about all the hype. You're fighting Paddy Pimblett in London. I mean, I can't imagine what that does to somebody mentally. Yeah. And all that's out the window. Now you're going to get a UFC newcomer. So you're going from Paddy Pimblett in London to a guy that's never fought in the UFC, right? He's never fought in the UFC, has he?
No.
No, yeah. I had a little brain fog there. But no, I just love him. I don't know. I love him at plus money this week. I'm going to be riding on it. Probably going to have some money on it. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him find that submission too, because he is a strong dude. He's not the most athletic looking dude. He's kind of different personality.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people flock to him and hype him up or anything. But at the end of the day, he's 10-2, and he's fighting guys like Paddy Pimblett. So
Yeah.
yeah, give me him at plus money against the UFC newcomer who's been submitted twice all day long.
Yeah, deceivingly strong. Not like
Yeah.
a shredded dude, but
He's wrestling strong. Like,
wrestling strong. And if he gets that win, man, he's gonna be twerking that ass.
oh yeah.
And yeah, I like him. I like him as a dog. 2-1 in the UFC as a dog. So looks like he could come through again. Keep her moving to O'Day, Osbourne, and Charles Johnson. Sitting at minus 158 for Johnson, plus 158 for Osbourne. Over under set at 1.5 rounds. Over minus 190, under plus 190 in the flyweight division. 3-2 in Osbourne's last 5. 4-1 for Charles Johnson. Fought pretty much a month ago. I mean, he's been pretty active here. So, who do you like in this one? I mean, kind of a quick turnaround for him. I mean, didn't take much damage at all against Jimmy Flick, but kind of a quick turnaround. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to this. This is the gambling part and the tricky part of this fight. Is it comes down to which O'Day Osbourne shows up to fight. We've seen O'Day look like a world beater. We've seen him, he's fast on the feet. He's good. He's a good mixed martial artist. He's got 5 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's won by decision a couple of times. We've also seen him look pretty bad and get the lights put out too. I mean, losing to Tyson Nam like that, where he was a pretty big favorite, I believe, in that fight. Maybe a 2-1 favorite against Tyson Nam, if I'm remembering that right.
Minus 360. That's what it's. So yeah, that was
damn near 4-1. So yeah, I don't know if Charles Johnson necessarily is going to come out there and shut the lights off, but being 5'9", fighting a smaller guy like O'Day, I think is going to be a huge advantage on the feet. Charles Johnson's long too. If he goes to the ground, he's always a submission threat. I mean, he's got 3 submission wins, it looks like. Never been submitted, never been knocked out. I understand why he's a favorite. I think this fight could be closer in the odds. But I do lean Charles Johnson here. Had a great last performance. Is going to have a few more aspects and qualities in his striking that you want in a guy fighting an O'Day Osbourne. That reach, kind of unorthodox, can hit you from with his hands down at his waist. Where with O'Day Osbourne, you're going to get kind of a wild, quicker combinations type style. But all signs do point to Charles Johnson right now for me. This will be a little bit of a step up, and I do think he gets it done though. I don't know if he finds the knockout. I think it's definitely possible, but right now I'm just gonna ride Charles Johnson as the pick.
Yeah, I hate to pick against O'Day Osbourne. O'Day started training in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so back in my home state, and one of my buddies would train with him at Pura Vida BJJ, so that's hard to pick against him, but I got to keep my honesty to you guys, and I don't think he's going to win this fight. I think Charles Johnson is just better as many ways as the fight will take him, and I think he'll be able to control the fight. O'Day, he's all action. I mean, he's southpaw fast, but he just leaves his hands down, leaves himself open to getting hit on the feet. He's super powerful, though. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the under is a way to look at this one. I know it's at 1.5, but look at O'Day Osbourne's fights. Like, they're pretty much over in the first round. In the UFC, he's only had one fight get past the first round, and it went to decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's all action. He's going to come at you, and he's going to leave himself open to getting hit. So, will Charles Johnson be able to capitalize on that? He's not like a potent, devastating punisher. Like Tyson Nam's probably got better finishing ability on the feet than Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson is fast. He can pick his shots. He's been training at Tiger Muay Thai, getting that Muay Thai right, getting those kicks right, getting those hands right. So everything points to Charles Johnson for me. Makes his debut against Muhammad Mokaev, and doesn't get finished. Doesn't really look like he was ever in a big danger in that one. So yeah, I like Charles Johnson, but it's always hard to pick against O'Day Osbourne.
Yeah.
He wrestled at Carroll University, which was about 30 minutes from where I grew up, and I took a visit there once. So
Nice.
It's tough to say he's going to lose, but I got to keep it 100 with you guys. So I'm going to take Charles Johnson, probably inside the distance. Honestly, I mean, I don't think O'Day would ever, just accept like a decision loss. Like I just don't see him taking that. He does have one on his record, but I think even if he gets controlled for like a round, he's going to come out the next round and he's going to throw everything he has at you. So yeah, probably inside the distance. He could get it done either way. O'Day's been subbed. He's been knocked out. So probably Charles Johnson inside the distance is a route that I'll probably take. But that will all be finalized at the end of the week, and you can get that in the double A premium. Joe Solecki and Carl Deaton. This one, don't have a lot to say about this one because it's pretty greasy. Plus 475 for Carl Deaton, minus 475 for Joe Solecki. Over under set at 1.5 rounds, minus 145 for the over, plus 145 for the under. We all know the story with Joe Solecki. I mean, he wants to get it to the ground. And overall, like, that's just where his bread gets buttered. Been training with Chris Weidman a little bit as of recently. He got dropped in his last fight in the first round, though, so that one's a little sketchy. I mean, his last fight was who was it? Alex De Silva. Yeah, he majority decision there. That was a greasy fight. He got dropped. He got controlled on the ground. That's a weakness of his. If he gets his back on the ground, he's not very good off of his back. But if he's on top of you, that's kind of where he wants to be. And that's kind of where he needs to be. In this one against Carl Deaton, though, I don't really have a lot of faith in him. He's really hittable on the feet. He has decent top control if he can get you there. So, I mean, if he gets takedowns on Solecki and can keep that top control, land some ground and pound, probably have some success. But, yeah, at the odds for Solecki, it's just kind of tough because you're not adding a lot of value there on the money line. It's just kind of a greasy fight overall. I'll probably just lay off in the entirety. But you got anything else?
I hate the line. I hate that big of a favorite for Solecki. Yeah, man, both guys have a lot of submissions. Joe Solecki's never been submitted. He should win this fight. I see him getting on top and getting it done, but it's just a greasy fight that if you're betting on it, there's just not a lot of angles to really, find a good bet, in my opinion. Not a money line play. Over under is dicey. Both guys have good submissions and submission defense. So, yeah, it's just one I would stay away from.
Couldn't agree more. Even the over-under is like, I don't really know. So,
Yeah.
Nurullo Aliev, the Tajik Eagle, that's his nickname, I believe.
Baby Habib.
Yeah, Baby Habib, pretty much. Minus 162. Rafael Alves, plus 162. Some good plus money on a guy who's fought some pretty decent competition there. Over-under sitting at 2.5 rounds, minus 100 for the over, plus 100 for the under. The undefeated guy making his debut, the Tajik Eagle. Do you like him in this one or do you like the dog?
I don't know, man. When I first watched both of them, it doesn't necessarily remind me exactly like last week's Hussein Askabov, but he has a lot less fights. He's undefeated, but I mean, who has he really been fighting early on in his career? He doesn't have a lot of experience. Rafael Alves has all the experience. And, against Drew Dober, I know Alves got finished, but there was some times he was looking slick on the feet, and he's normally, known for, being a submission artist. He does have 6 submission losses now that I look at it, and 4 TKO losses, but the dude is slick on the ground when he gets it there, when he's on top. But against Drew Dober, like I said, I took Drew Dober in that fight, and it made me really nervous at times because Alves had his moments and looked pretty decent. I think this is a tough fight for any UFC newcomer to get a guy like Alves. And I don't know if I'm really going to put anything on Aliev because of what we saw last week with Askabov. You just never know. Sometimes those wrestlers can't get the takedown, and then, at this level in the UFC, you're going to get pieced up by these veterans like this. So it's just so many unknowns on Nurullo Aliev's side. I mean, does he have the gas tank to hold up after making his debut? Is there going to be some nerves involved? You're taking on an absolute veteran in Alves. So a lot of unknowns. I don't think the dog is a terrible play here, if I'm being honest. Not for a lot of money by any means, but there's definitely a world where Alves gets this thing done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a world where he could get it done. I wouldn't have a ton of confidence in it, though. I mean, the guy has shown that he can get controlled on the ground, and the thing that scares me with him is like if he's getting taken down, he jumps on that guillotine
Yeah.
and he kind of accepts it. Like he goes for the guillotine. He's got a ton of guillotine wins. I mean, he's got a great guillotine. The guy, you look at the guy, he's jacked to the gills. Looks like
Hmm.
he should be on the sauce, but he somehow manages to get around it or something. But I mean, he's a super muscular dude. I mean, him and Drew Dober were like pretty much twins out there.
Yep.
And somehow Drew Dober was able to finish him like with a hook to the body. It was a wild fight. It was a great fight. It was really fun to watch. Look at the fight before that. He guillotine choked Mark Jacasey. And then the fight before that, making his debut in the UFC against Damir Ismagulov. And Ismagulov was able to control him on the ground and stay safe away from that guillotine. Alves went for it a couple times, didn't get it, and then was able to Ismagulov was able to control him on the ground. So if you look at Aliev, what he does is get you to the ground and control you. Like he doesn't have many finishes. That's kind of why they call him the Tajik Eagle. He gets you to the ground and just smothers you, like Khabib style, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 6 decision wins out of his 8 fights. He's only has 2 TKOs on his record, and the fight on the Contender Series was one of them, and it was a round 1 TKO. So, which he was like a minus 625 favorite in that one. So he's supposed to win that fight. He'll probably be favored in a lot of his fights because I mean he's got a great strategy. I mean he's really good at it too. But it just scares me as far as like if Alves stuffs a couple takedowns or maybe he even gets the guillotine. Maybe he gets the guillotine because that thing is so fucking scary.
He's so strong too.
So strong. The cardio problems is a question. If the fight goes longer, I would expect Aliev to have some pretty decent cardio and with the way he fights, he's going to have to have cardio if that's the way he fights. So if the fight goes longer, I would only favor Aliev. And we've seen Alves, kind of fold as the fights goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got 11 losses in his career. So, I mean, he's 1-2 in the UFC. I don't know. Maybe he really needs this win. Maybe he really does. It's just weird that he came into the UFC. I mean, he's fighting like the best of the best. Ismagulov, Casey, not the best of the best, but Dober too. Like they're not giving him any layups, and they're not giving him a layup here at all. So, yeah, tough fights for Alves. I'll probably lean Aliev for the pick, but maybe you sprinkle a little bit on Alves round 1 submission by guillotine, and it's like plus 300,000 or something like that, and you'll take it, something like that. Got to find value in those scenarios, but
exactly.
I'll take Aliev for the pick. Yeah. Eileen Perez taking on Haley Cowan, minus 135 for Haley Cowan and plus 135 for Perez. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, minus 180 for the over, plus 180 for the under. Eileen Perez with the loss in her debut. You gonna give her a shot in this one?
I think I will, honestly, just because I mean she's the underdog. Haley Cowan, I mean, on the Contender Series gets a split decision win, so it's not like she's out there looking like a world beater by any means. Perez, I think she has the ability to get takedown. I mean, she is a strong girl for the division, has knockouts on her record, can strike. She's well-rounded, and Cowan, coming down to it, is a well-rounded fighter as well. I just think the competition may be a little more stiff for Perez. I think Perez, got that first UFC debut fight out of her way. Now Cowan's got to come in and try to make her debut. I think as the underdog, though, I would take a chance on Perez just from what we've seen. I don't think Cowan's in her highlights and in her past fights, especially on the Contender Series, like she had some good moments. She looked good, but she's not going to go out there and dominate girls by any means. And if you're not going to go out there and you're not a for sure win in my book, and you don't have the necessary tools to go out there and just be better than Eileen Perez everywhere, I'm definitely going to take the underdog at plus 134 on BetOpenly. I mean, I think that's decent value for a girl who has the pressure off of her back now. She's not making her debut anymore. She can just relax, go out there and fight. And then Cowan, on the other hand, does have some nerves. And when you're under the bright lights for the first time in your career here in the UFC, give me Perez for the pick as the dog.
Yeah. Again, I gotta agree with you. I mean, she's gonna want to get the fight to the ground, and Haley Cohen doesn't necessarily strive or thrive on the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
she can get controlled, and she got controlled in her fight on the Contender Series in the second round there. And then the third round was kind of back and forth. She gets the split decision win and the contract. She's kind of like an athlete, a strong athlete that probably learns pretty quickly and was able to pick up mixed martial arts, got
Yeah.
into it, and has had a pretty good career. But overall, she's got 2 submission losses. Those are her losses in her first professional fight to Victoria Leonardo, and then 2.5 years ago in LFA, got guillotine choke. For Perez, she's pretty much fighting cans on the regional scene, comes into the UFC 7-1, loses her debut to Stephanie Egger. Gets subbed by her, not necessarily anything to hang her head over. Egger's got great jiu-jitsu. But Perez showed a good amount of stuff in that fight. I mean, she showed that she can wrestle with girls that are, I mean, Stephanie Egger is a pretty solid 135er.
Yeah.
She's got pretty wild striking. Perez does on the feet. It's more so like, I don't know, like something to dress up a takedown. Like she wants to just throw at you, like kind of distract you and then get in on you and get some trips. That's mainly where her takedowns come. She's not like a shoot a double A kind of girl. It's more so get a hold of you, get a trip, get you to the ground, land some ground and pound, all that kind of good stuff. We'll see if she can do it with Haley Cohen, though. She's a strong girl. So, I mean, it's 2 strong girls going at it. I think it's probably dog or pass if you're going to bet it.
Right.
If you're laying the chalk on Cohen, I could see why, but making her debut, it's a little tough, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think it's dog or pass. Garrett Armfield and Jose Johnson. Plus 130 for Johnson, minus 130 for Armfield. Over-under set at 2.5 rounds, plus 160 for the over-under, minus 160. Bantamweight bout here. Jose Johnson making his debut. Garrett Armfield making his second appearance in the UFC after taking a short notice fight over David Onama, which he had already fought him in the amateurs. So it was basically a rematch there. And then was able to survive, not even survive a round. I mean, he gave Onama a pretty good fight until he got taken down and submitted via arm triangle choke. But watching the guy, he's kind of just like a dog. Like he has some pretty decent stuff on the feet, throws wild, throws a lot. Training out of Killcliff FC, a good camp. I kind of like him here. It's just kind of tough. Those he's the favorite. Not super impressed with Jose Johnson, if I'm being honest. He is young though. Both guys are young. I think both guys, give them a couple years, they'll be pretty solid. Jose Johnson's got a great frame for the division. Another thing with Armfield, he took that fight at 145. He's a 135er, so he fought Onama up a weight class. He's going to be at his normal weight class here, 135. So I like that as well. I mean, if you can hang with David Onama at 145, I think you can do more than hang against Jose Johnson at 135. So, yeah, I like Garrett Armfield here. I think he can hit him on the feet, can use the wrestling if he wants it. Jose Johnson fought on the Contender Series last year, had a decision win against Jack Cartwright in pretty much a pick'em fight there. His losses aren't terrible as of recent. Ronnie Lawrence, Mana Martinez, both guys in the UFC now. So he's beating guys that aren't in the UFC. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of a greasy fight because it's kind of what Jose Johnson do you get on this night?
He's a wild card, yeah.
He's kind of a wild card. Like the ceiling's probably higher than Garrett Armfield, but I think what you're getting with Garrett Armfield. And at these odds, I'd probably take the favorite here with Armfield. How about you?
I'm gonna go the opposite way. I think I like Jose Johnson just because of the unorthodox. He's long. Kind of his striking can get a little bit wild at times, but he's got some power and some whip in his shots. And then on the ground, Garrett Armfield, will look for takedowns and he'll look to grapple. And like you mentioned, a great point for Armfield is that last fight, he was fighting up a weight class basically against Onama, and you could definitely see the size difference in the octagon between the two. And he did have success against Onama. His striking, he hit him with some decent shots. I just don't think Armfield has the power and the zip on his shots to knock out Jose Johnson. I know Jose Johnson's been KO'd before, but I could see Jose Johnson just being a little bit too wild and, unpredictable, cutting weird angles, flying knees, all of that stuff, and just kind of overwhelming Garrett Armfield. And then, on the ground, Jose Johnson's capable of the submissions with that length in his arms, and he's only got a couple submissions to his record. But I mean, I don't know. Something's screaming Jose Johnson. I think he does have 7 losses on his record, but he's also a guy that gets a lot of finishes too. He's got 8 KOs, 2 submissions out of his 15 wins. So yeah, I'm going to take the underdog here. There's a lot of underdogs I know I'm taking this week, but for my pick, I think Jose Johnson. He's got a cool story. He's got nothing to lose at this point. He's 15-7. He's just now getting into the UFC. He's going to go out there and try to make a splash. I'm going to call it now. Jose Johnson flying knee knockout. Round number 2. We're gonna go that.
Good luck with that. I wonder what the odds on that is. If you
I don't know.
The exact
Juicy.
Yeah, that's it for this card. We got 13 fights. It's 4 p.m. Eastern start time on ESPN Plus. UFC Apex once again. Those are the picks. But if you want the bets, the full betting card, link will be in the description to get those. $19.99 per month. If you want the premium, think about it. I mean, you get probably 40 or more fights, so you're pretty much paying less than like 50 cents per fight if you do the premium. If you just want the picks every week, they're $9.99, so less than $1 per fight to get 2 opinions. So great value there. Otherwise, if you don't want to pay anything, you don't want to buy anything, just leave a subscription down below to support the channel. Put a lot of work into this, and we want to provide you guys with the best experience that you can, everything that you need. That's our goal here. And if there's anything we can do to get you guys that, leave a comment down below, and we'll do our best to get you that. Other than that, at the Double Egg on all the social medias, follow us there so you can get updated as the week goes on. At HeyJaiPicks on the medias for me to get other MMA content. Where can they find you?
TikTok at The Parlay, Instagram, The Parlay_media, and YouTube and Twitter, The Parlay MMA.
All right. Next time we see you, we'll be recapping some UFC Vegas 70. If not, we'll see you in the exclusive show for the Double Egg Premium members. Till then, Double Egg.